Hello there, it's Suze here, and I've finally got around to being able to do this little tutorial that I've been talking about today. So happy International Dotting Day. We've got a day for everything, haven't they, these days? And why not? Why not indeed? So my plan is to show you some really fun, really simple dotting designs, and we've got mistletoe, penguins, a deer, and I'm going to show you the star. Nice and simple, just a quick thing. One of the reasons I'm doing this is really to see how much interest there is in new dotting designs, because it's something that I love to do, and I know a lot of you do as well, but is there enough interest to run a class? That's what I'm wondering. So let's start with Mr. Penguin. Okay, so the tools that I'll be using are a dotting tool. This is my original Faux-Kit dotting tool, and this is 7 years old now. In 2014 I got this, and the end does come out occasionally, but I just pop it back in. Occasionally I put some glue in as well, but it seems to hold up and do the trick. It's got a ball on either end, a bigger one this side and a smaller one on this side. So that's my dotting tool. There are lots of different sizes. It can be handy to have if you've got bigger ones. It was quite handy, but I'm going to just use this one for tonight and cheat, and I'll show you how I cheat. The other thing that's really handy is to have something with a really tiny point, like cocktail stick or piercing tool, pointy tool, pokey tool, whatever they call this. So they are, I mean, this is actually a quilling tool, this one, but I use it as my pointy pokey tool for taking up the tops of sticky tape, things like that, and also cotton buds, or Q-tips as they call them in America, preferably the paper ones, if you're going to go out and buy them rather than the plastic. So those are the tools. I'm using Decor Art paints this evening, and I've put on my palette, I've got True Red, Titanium White, Hauser Green Light, Carbon Black, Chocolate, oh, the sun's coming out, might be interesting, that is Paddle, but just a light brown. I've put some gold out as well, because I do like a bit of sparkle, and this is an orange, it's a neon orange. So those are the colours I've got out. And I might just have to put the blind down, because I think that's going to cast a shadow on everything, unless I can get my... No, I'm going to have to put the blind down. Bear with. If I can get to it. I think that's done it. Climbs back to craft desk over piles of class stuff. Okay, right, here we go, I'm back again. Okay, so I've got my dotting tool. I'm going to use the large end. This is for the penguin, and if I just show you this one, I've done 3 on here, and they've all got slightly different expressions, and that will all depend on how you place the eyes, obviously. So I'm going to take my dotting tool. Now, if you've got the larger dotting tools, then that's great, you can use that. But if you haven't, just get plenty of paint, and instead of just doing a dot, do a dot and a swirl, and make him a little bit bigger. You can make them tiny, you can make them absolutely tiny, but for the purpose of this, I'll make them a little bit bigger, just so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So phase 1 is always just the body and the head, and then you need a piece of kitchen towel to clean off your dotting tool. Always do that each time you're going to use a different tool or change ends. And then you want the smaller end, and you're going to dip into there, and you're going to do a dot on either side, come in, and that's going to be his little arms. Now I am going to add white at the bottom, because with the neon sometimes it's a very translucent colour and it sometimes just needs a bit of white underneath to help it pop. So that's stage 1 of my penguin done. Now I'm going to do the reindeer. So again, the larger end of the dotting tool, and I'm going to go into the, is that chocolate brown? Dark chocolate. Large end of the dotting tool, and again a dot and a swirl, and then give them a couple more dots. And then I'm going to swap over to the smaller end of the dotting tool. This is for the reindeer. And I'm going to put his, oh, I've forgotten his head. Right, let's go back to the large end. So you want 2 for his head with the larger end, and then you want a couple of little ones for his ears. His ears can either go here or higher. And then you also want to do what they call little comma strokes for his legs, or her legs, and also to join the tail to the body and the body together. So that's his body, and that's phase 1 of the reindeer. Now, the other design we're going to do is the mistletoe. I really like this one, this is great fun. And I only use the small end of the dotting tool for this one. So I'm going into my Hauser light green, and I'm going to start, got the hole here. I want enough room to have a little bow underneath. I could do that first, but I won't. I'll start with coming down a bit lower. So again, we're going to use the comma strokes with the dotting tool. You do 2 comma strokes, and then you do a little 2 dots and then turn them into comma strokes. Dot, dot, comma strokes. And if you do decorative painting, you'll know what I mean by comma strokes, but that's just the term for this particular shape. And then up here, I'm going to do another one, but then I'm going to come out and give it a couple more, because this is the central one. Now to join these up, I'm going to do a dot, comma, and pull that in together. So that is phase 1 of mistletoe. And lastly, we'll do a star. Now, I used a bright yellow for this before and added glamour dust, but this time I think I will just use the gold. Now the thing with the gold is it's a little bit sticky. It might be because I've had it for quite a while, but what I'm going to do is I use the small end of the dotting tool, and I'll go in and I'll do dot, 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 and what happens is the dots get smaller as you use up the paint. Back into the middle, dot, dot, dot. Now you can draw lines if you want to give yourself a slightly more accurate guide than I'm doing. Back into the middle and out again. And the reason for starting in the middle is it means that the dots that come out will be the same size. Now at this point you can go back into the middle and drag down through, and those dots will have given you enough paint to pull all the way through. Into the middle and out, into the middle and out. And then you can do the same again, but going up at the side. Into the middle, and usually about 1, 2, 3 dots. Up to the side. Into the middle, 1, 2, 3, and out. And when you get the hang of it, it's really quick. 1, 2, 3. And that's quite pretty. And then if you want to, you can do some dotting around the edge. To the middle. And this is a really nice way of decorating lots of designs. What can happen here is this is actually a stitched tag. I'll show you the ones I've used. And this has got, it's actually got little indentations around the side. So if the paint catches that, it can skew it slightly. But these are the tags I've used. They're a Creative Expression set, Sue Wilson. And the smallest one I find is just perfect for these. So that's the one I've just die cut a few of those from black card, and actually from a scrap piece of brown paper, which was actually the cover of a paper pad. Okay, so we've done phase 1 of the star, the mistletoe, the penguin and the deer. I'm going to move those out of the way. I'm really sorry about the shadows. Obviously I was expecting to do this much earlier today. Let those dry. And I've got a couple here that I have started off. Let's go to the deer. Okay, so to do his antlers, we're going to go into the paddle, and I'm going to do, I'm not sure you can, hopefully you can see that. I'll lift it up in a minute. I'm doing a comma stroke down to his head, and then I'm going to do another comma stroke on top, and that gives him a nice long antler. And then I'll do comma stroke out to the side and into the middle. Yeah, so the this was the penguin, and I ended up doing a snowman as well, but a little demonstration I did a few years ago, and I did a Dotty class at when Bridget used to have her place in gosh, I can't remember what it's called now, Hampshire, Let's Be Creative. And we did a class, a dotting class, so now I started just doing a few of these random things at the end. And actually a friend of mine, Karen Gilchrist, came up with the idea of doing the reindeer face, and I've basically taken the face and just added a little body. Now, of course, you have to have a red nose, and I use the large end of the dotting tool into the true red and then go in the middle, and that gives them a perfect little nose. And his eyes, I want white eyes, so ideally I would let that dry, go in with the small end of my dotting tool. Now if that is going to be too large, that dot, you see that, so to make it smaller, dot it off onto your palette twice, and then you should have just the right size to do a couple of eyes. So that will be his eyes. So we'll move him to one side, and we'll come back with the penguin. Sounds like something from Batman and Robin, doesn't it? The penguin. Okay, and here again we're going to go in large end of the dotting tool to give him a tummy, and then come up and give him a little face. That's where his beak is going to go, and then I'll go back to the small end again, dot off two dots, and then his little eyes, his cute little eyes, and then that has to dry. So that's phase 2 of the creatures, and they're looking quite cute, aren't they? I love those. Now phase 2 of the mistletoe is simply going to the white, and then again, if you're worried that that's too big, dot off, and then do 1, 2, 3, dot, dot off, 1, 2, 3, dot, dot, dot. Now I didn't dot off, you can see it's slightly bigger, and I won't dot off on this one because that's the bigger one at the top with more leaves. So that's my mistletoe. Now at this stage, what I would like to do here is add a little bit of glitter. So this is my glamour dust, and I'm just going to sprinkle that, because this was phase 2, it means the leaves are already dry. Otherwise you'd have sparkly leaves, which again is fine, but you might just be able to see. Hopefully you can see that that's a bit sparkly, which is really lovely. So that's the mistletoe, and the star, well, that's quite fine like it is. You could add a bit of glitter to that if you wanted to. Let's try adding that. It's probably not quite dry because it's a metallic, so they take a little bit longer. And you can just see the difference there. Looks a bit sparkly. You can actually get gold glamour dust, which would have been a better colour to use, wouldn't it? So that's my glamour dust out of the way. So that's phase 2 of those. So that's the mistletoe and the star. And we did the deer and the penguin. Now, you can actually do with his hoofs, is that what you call deer? Feet, hoofs? You could actually do white on the bottom, little white dots, so that you can go over them with the lighter brown and it will show up a slightly different colour. Could actually just mix the colours, but so that's fine. Let that dry. Now, to do the eyes, I would go in with my dotting tool. Not my dotting tool, sorry, my toothpick. I'm going to go into the black. I have a bit of fluff on there, so I'm going to take that off. Into the black. And I'm going to dot off again, because I want this tiny. And then I'm going to go into his eyes. And the trick is to try and go into in the same direction, otherwise they'll look a bit boss-eyed. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. I'll do close-ups of these afterwards anyway, so you can see them better. And again here, into the black, dots off, and tiny, tiny little eyes. Let's see if I can catch the light. Hopefully you can see that. Little eyes. So they're so cute, aren't they? So I'll put those to one side. So you've just got a couple more steps to do for that. In fact, we can do the penguin's next step actually, because the next step is the orange, which is his beak and his little tootsies. So again, I'll use the dotting tool, but I'll use the other end. I'm going into the neon, and I'm just going to do a couple of dots for his beak. And that white's not quite dry, so that's the top tip, is to let the white dry really. So I've got another one here. Let's see if that one's better. Just a bit of a suggestion of a beak, and then over the feet, just dot over that. You could actually use the small end of the dotting tool rather than the toothpick for this, because it's a ball size one, isn't it? And on this one we haven't done the arms, so small end of the dotting tool. You can dab off if you want to, and then dot, dot, connect and connect. Okay, so that's basically how you do the penguin. I haven't done the eyes on this one, and the white tummy is a bit transparent, so I'll just go back and do that. And then for his eyes, I'll go back in with the black, tiny dot, dot off 1, 2, and then give him his eyes. Now, what's also really nice is if you then go back in with your dotting tool into the white, small end of the dotting tool, and pop some snow down. And depending on where the snow goes, it can look like he's jumping or walking. And you just want to go backwards and forwards, pop some snow down. And this one I'll finish up, because what happens is if you find that you've gone into the paint when it's wet, it doesn't matter, because you just let it dry and go back over it. So I'm just putting paint on the small end of the dotting tool and spreading that round. While that is wet, I will come in with the glitter. And I can control this really to make sure it doesn't go on his tummy, or I could just put it all over. So I've just popped it on the lower bit, and then you get the sparkly snow. I'll do the same on this one. Tap it off, and there's the sparkly snow. And I'm going to do the same to the reindeer, and then I shall add his antlers. So this is just swooshing, isn't it, really? Just going to put a bit of paint down and smoosh it. We like smooshing. Move that out of the way. And to this one as well, which has got the antlers, and I've painted his feet on that one. I just want to hold it down and then come up to his feet. You could even pop a little bit on his antlers if you wanted to. Clean off the dotting tool just by rolling it in kitchen towel, and add the glitter. The rest of it's dry, so I think his nose is dry enough to add the glitter without him having a sparkly red nose. Well, I wouldn't mind a sparkly red nose. Who would? Okay, and for the I'll just finish off the deer's antlers. This deer. So do you remember I did one, and you could do it either way. I think the first time I started off away from the head with the first one, but basically you want two on top of each other, small end of the dotting tool, and then you want to come out that way and do his little antlers, and you can see the difference between those. Hopefully you can see the difference. And this one I've done extra antlers, so what you need to look at is how far apart you put your antlers and whether or not you can get another little branch off of them. And on this one I've added white paint. Oh, there's some dogs going a bit wild outside. And this one I will add paint when the antlers are dry. And also with this one you can see that one of his eyes sort of sank into the white paint. So now that the white paint is dry, I'll go back in and add another little dab of black. See that? So I'm very much hoping that you can see those. So there we have it. You have your penguin and your reindeer, and all I've got to do is finish off the mistletoe. So they're quite cute, aren't they? And you could do these on little mini cards as well. I usually do mini cards for the neighbours. The star, that was easy enough. That was dotting and dragging. And then this should be dry enough now for me to finish that off. And what I'll do for that is you come back with the small end of the dotting tool into the red paint, and you're going to do 2 dots, pull them into the middle, 2 dots, pull them into the middle, and that's your bow. And then if you want to, you could add some red and white dots alternating to decorate the edge. Try and get them fairly level and the same size. Could go white in between. And you could do that all the way around if you wanted to. So that's the mistletoe. With this one I've used green and white, and with this one I've used red and white. So mistletoe, penguin, star and deer. These are your 4 designs that I've shown you this evening, I hope you like them. Sorry about the lighting. I had to wait for the plumber to leave, or I'd have done this about 3 hours ago. But there you go, life gets in the way. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.